Hello and welcome to Mommy Dentist Business Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Grace Yum, and I just really want to say Happy New Year and thank you to all of our listeners for being so loyal for the past 8 years. We've won so many different dental accolades and recognition, and we wouldn't without our community. So thank you. Today, I have a special guest, and you know, I often announce my guests as special because they are. But today's guest is someone that is not in the dental space, as in you don't see him at every dental conference. And you might think this person is new to our orbit. And I'm literally pulling him into the dental orbit, whether he likes it or not. So please meet Jeff Benton, founder and CEO of Paragon Performance Evolution. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Grace. I was excited for this, and it's been so nice to get to know you.
Same. Well, I would love everyone to get to know you. We're downloaded in over 44 countries, and I want the world to know you, Jeff. So please tell everyone about yourself, what you do, and how you got to where you are today.
Oh, that little question here. Yeah, at a high level, I have a company called Paragon Performance Evolution. That's how we met when I think I presented with Inner Fifth.
Yes.
And we're really focused on creating programs around high performance, team dynamics, leadership. But that's a little bit of a Trojan horse. Our higher purpose is to really work with leaders like your community to help increase consciousness and awareness. And we see through our work when leaders do the work and they start to relate to themselves differently, they just make better decisions for the world, right? Through their teams, their patients, their families, and their communities. And I've always been interested in high performance. I was an athlete. That was kind of my identity for a lot of years. But also, my dad was a sports agent and he had one of the biggest sports marketing companies. And at one point, they had Michael Jordan and Jimmy Connors and hundreds of athletes. So I was always really intrigued at
Mm-hmm.
what made somebody the best at what they did.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say even more so when I really connected to how I define high performance, it's when I went through a life tragedy. And I think
Mm-hmm.
I've shared, but I grew up single mother. I was close to my dad, but he lived across the country. And my mom was my whole world. It was kind of her and I against the world. And she was this dynamic, beautiful, smart, soul, but she
Mm-hmm.
also dealt with a lot of mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And over 20 years ago, she took her life. And,
Mm-hmm.
at that time, I looked pretty on paper, great job and, all of that. But I was really being driven by fear, anxiety, anger, and this imposter syndrome. And so when my mom left us, I was in so much pain that I really had to go internal because I just didn't want to feel the way I was feeling anymore. And I just couldn't put on the costume anymore. And so a friend of mine who was a pro athlete actually introduced me to some of the things we teach. And I started to do them every day. And I remember waking up a couple months after doing these tools and techniques, and I actually felt some joy, some presence, and probably gratitude for the first time in my life. And I realized if I could go from totally disconnected to feeling this joy, this gratitude, this presence, anybody could. And that was really, again, the inspiration to start Paragon, to work with leaders like in your community. And we work with a lot of Fortune 500 and special forces and astronauts and pro athletes and global first ladies. And it's been amazing. So
I
that's a
love that.
high level.
I love that. That's so inspiring, and it's just amazing what you've built and what you've put together from just your not just but from your personal experience and what that all kind of looks like. And I know that you work with high performing professionals in all aspects in different industries. For dentist business owners who are also moms, what do you think are the biggest challenge they're facing right now, and how is it affecting their work and home life?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So I would say for business owners and especially for members of your community that are leaders, that are mothers, that are spouses, like all of these things playing multiple roles,
Mm,
the pace of change is relentless right now. And from our work with senior leadership teams around the world, the biggest challenge leaders are facing is just keeping up with this fast-paced world of constant distractions.
mm,
And I saw a quote recently by Astro Teller, and he runs the innovation lab at Google.
mhm,
And he said, it was something like, I'm paraphrasing, but the rate of technological change is now accelerating so fast that it's risen above the average rate at which most
wow.
people can absorb all these changes. He said many of us cannot keep up anymore.
Right.
So our nervous systems are not designed to be living in the world we're living in.
Sure.
And so, because of this, if we don't upgrade our internal operating system, we're not going to be able to thrive or even survive. And
Sure.
it's really interesting because when we work with different organizations, from big companies to small business owners, we always do this like we call it a stress and well-being assessment.
Mm,
And when we do pre-assessments, when we get the results back, leaders are defining their normal state of being
mm.
as mid to high level of anxiety,
Of course. I
right?
mean, hands down. Like, yes, I could totally see that.
Yeah. And this is not how we're designed, right? Because when we're in this constant state of stress or when we're in a stress response, our brain starts to interpret everything as challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get the tough email, we're in a tense conversation, some ding dong cuts us off in
Mm-hmm.
traffic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we literally, our brain, our bodies think of it as life or death.
Mm-hmm.
And as stress arrives, the part that we need the most, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision making, communication, and having empathy, it goes offline.
Mm,
And then we start to misread situations, misinterpret intentions, and we really start to react and make decisions rooted in past behavior, baselines, and experiences.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, we do some work with Stanford, and I saw a recent study where they said 70 to 80% of chronic illness and disease is caused by stress. And
Oh,
I've
hands
even
down.
seen higher numbers, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
And because of this, so we're always asking our community, our clients, our friends, how is stress impacting you?
Yeah.
So,
Yes. And I want to throw in there as a parent, as especially for mothers, it's not ever it doesn't ever stop, right? The mental load of it, because
yeah,
it's not just work, it's also your kids, and then it's who's taking care of your kids. And I think that that heightened sense of living in that, what you said about the prefrontal cortex, about like your decision making, if you are in a state that's constantly stressed up here, every little thing triggers you, right? And that you can't make sound decisions, or you become reactive because you're triggered. And then
yeah,
you regret what you said or did later.
yes, yes,
Yeah. And we want to avoid that.
yes.
So you were talking about patterns, and many of our members feel stressed and they're stuck in their same patterns. But from a brain and nervous system perspective, why is it hard to change when juggling all of the above: patients, teams, businesses, families, etc.?
Oh, it's such a good question. You've probably heard me say this, but research shows that we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 90% of these thoughts are the same as the day before. And
Mm-hmm.
here's something shocking, and I think it was the National Science Foundation. 70 to 80% of our thoughts are either unhelpful or negative,
That's crazy.
right? So think about this. And on top of that, I think by the age of 7, 95% of our thoughts are being run by the subconscious. And actually, when I share this, it actually makes people feel better. So because we are all wired this way, because we
Mm-hmm.
take everything so personal, right?
Sure,
We
sure.
all think that there's something wrong with us and we're operating differently. But this is literally how we have evolved through evolution. But what
Mm-hmm.
happens is, like when we're unaware of thoughts, our behaviors become automatic. And so when we're having the same thoughts over and over, they start to
Mm-hmm.
become deeply ingrained in the brain's networks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then these thoughts take over, especially in stressful and challenging situations. And, we continually see, like, let's say, especially with leaders, they have this thought of not feeling good enough. So
Oh, yes.
right?
Yes.
I mean, and I'm telling you, like the
Yes.
higher up, the
Yes.
deeper the imposter syndrome.
Yes, the imposter syndrome.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, because 95% of our thoughts are run by the subconscious, then this belief system of not feeling good enough is literally influencing our choices we're making every day and the
Mm-hmm.
future we're creating. And Carl Jung has a quote.
The psychiatrist or psychologist.
Psychologist. Like, yeah, he was one of Freud's
Right.
disciples and then kind
Yeah.
of broke out in his own. And he 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 was one of the few that was interested in like spirituality
Mm.
and the science and the similarity. So he studied, Vedic and a lot of other things. But he basically said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Yeah. So until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct
Right.
your life and you'll call it fate. And so as we begin to identify our thoughts and beliefs, many of our behaviors will be automatic without purpose, right? And so one of the biggest things, where we see change is when leaders can start to identify their thought patterns, their beliefs, their behaviors, and make different choices, it
Mm.
starts to create new baselines.
See, I love that because you have to uncover yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to, first of all, you have to stop because a lot of leaders are go, 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 go. And it's just nonstop flow. And I think you have to carve out time to pause and open up the inside, like Pandora's box of who you are. And I think that can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think it can be scary. I think also you might not like what you see, right? When you're uncovering all that. But if you don't, then what happens?
Yeah. Then it's Groundhog Day every day,
Right,
right?
right. Oh, yeah. And that's like doing the hard part. Like I think when people say you have to do the hard work, I think that's what they're talking about. And if you don't recognize or look at your patterns and how you work, then you can't make shifts, like you can't change. What does it take to rewire our stress response so we can lead our practices and families
Yeah.
with clarity, with resilience and like I guess how do we get there, right? Like
Yeah.
because it sounds hard to do in a little bit of in a way, but is it better to do this with someone sitting with you, being like coached through it? Like what does it look like? You're asking yourself these questions, or do you think of examples of things?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we'll get to the good news for your community here. So, I mean, here's the good news at a high level, and then we can go into more detail. Over the last 20 to 30 years, science has shown that our brain actually has the ability to change and rewire. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is neuroplasticity, and we
Mm-hmm.
see it all the time. So the good news, we don't have to be the same person, the same habits, the same
Mm-hmm.
behaviors, same reactions our entire life. So similar to how we might learn a new language or a new musical instrument, we can actually learn new ways of thinking and interacting with
Mm-hmm.
the world. And we see it all the time. And so, on a more, I would say, micro level, a practice that we're continually encouraging our clients to do is when we become aware of unhelpful thoughts and we intentionally replace them with more constructive ones, we engage in this process known as cognitive restructuring.
Mhm.
So over time, when we continually replace the unhelpful thought with the more positive one, it's creating new neural pathways and it's basically rewiring our brain to support a
Mhm.
new way of thinking, feeling, responding. And so with consistency, as we keep doing this, we actually build new baselines for how we
Mhm.
experience the world.
Mhm.
Um, so that's really helpful, but it really helps to have like we continually with our clients will have them pair up with others to have accountability partners.
Yes. Yes.
And the more you can start to identify these behaviors, right, these things in unconscious belief, it creates awareness for then to change them in the future.
Sure. Yes.
And so what we'll do is we'll have individuals pair up. They'll lead each other through a technique. So first of all, to get out of a stress response into a more coherent state. And I'd love to just lead us through a quick one at
Mhm.
some point.
Mhm.
And then the second thing is they start to talk about what we call choice points. So we
Mhm.
have these choice points moment by moment to make decisions that then impact our future.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, an example would be we'll ask our clients, where did you make a choice point that created a better situation?
Mhm.
And one that we hear often is, I got an email and it really upset me. And I
Mhm.
was about to fire off my thoughts. We can all relate. That used to be me. I needed to
Mhm.
speak my truth. But then
Mhm.
that choice point would create all this stuff I didn't want to have to deal with. Right.
Mhm.
So every moment is creating the future.
Mhm.
And so now when we start to do the work and they have this choice point awareness and these tools and techniques, they're like, okay, I'm really upset, but if I write it right now, then I know it's going to set off a chain of things that aren't going to serve me and others.
Sure.
So I'm
Sure.
going to do a technique. I'm going to take a walk,
Mhm.
right? And then I'm going to come back and write a more thoughtful email that creates a
Mhm.
better outcome for myself and others. And we see this. I had an example a while ago as a senior partner at a big consulting firm. And she, for the last few years, she kept playing out the same scenario with her son. She'd be in her home office. The son would come in asking for money or wanting to trigger. She would go into past baselines and react to him, right? And we've all related, right, with teenagers. And then it was like World War III. And it just played out every day for a couple of years.
Mhm.
So we did a choice point around it. And I was like, okay, the first thing is to get into this coherent state so you
Mhm.
can be more empathetic, communicate,
Mhm.
make decisions. And then the second thing is now you have a choice point instead of reacting to listening and being curious because
Mhm.
he's coming in there and acting like that because there's something deeper going on that you're not seeing.
Right. Right.
Son comes in acting, being reactive, trying to get a reaction out of his mother. She goes in and gets coherent. And then instead of reacting, she listens. She's in her heart. She's present. And that enables her to ask a few more questions to really get to the root of what was
Mhm.
going on with him. And ultimately, the root is he wanted to spend more time with her, but he didn't know how to express it. So,
Sure.
because they got to the actual root and she was able to respond in a loving way, a couple years of that interaction changed within 30 minutes.
Mm. That's amazing. And I think that it's just like you said, the choice point and then being in a ready, coherent state. And I think that a lot of people miss that part,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
They're not thinking about what their state they're in because they don't know any better.
Well, that's such a good point. And I meant to share that. We always talk about, so we don't really, we're not taught this and we don't think about it. But one of the things we always say is performance and presence is about getting your physiology right in the moment.
Hmm.
Everything else is secondary until then.
Okay.
Because if we're in a challenging situation and we want to show up in a positive way. If we're in a stressed out response, we talked about how we're limited in our ability to communicate, have empathy, and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we're saying the right words, it's
Mm-hmm.
not being received.
Right.
So as we have tools and techniques to get into this present state,
Mm-hmm.
then we can match the words with it to create
Yes.
more effective outcomes. And
Right.
one of the things I always say is like, the irony is our clients who are working in the most elite performance environments, special forces, astronauts, professional athletes, they are prioritizing our teachings the first week of training. But a lot of times in the corporate world or the healthcare world or small business owners, this stuff's secondary.
Mm-hmm.
But your community is dealing in high stakes, stressful situations every day.
Right. Right. And so I often think that it's an awareness that we're not taught this. We're not given these tools and opportunities. And I think that a lot of business owners and leaders would benefit in thinking if I could respond, or even not just them, their managers or whoever's in senior leadership position, responded in this way of taking a pause, assessing your state, assessing like, because there's nothing wrong with getting back to somebody later,
Right.
right? You
Right.
don't have to respond like at that moment when they ask you to. You could say,
Yeah.
I hear you. Give me some time to think about it and I will respond. You don't have to like engage and get pulled in and sucked into, even if you want to, because there's some people who just can't help it and they want to respond right away. But I think
Yeah.
you have to say, like, hold your horses, because that's the time when you could say something that just slips out of your mouth and you have your foot stuck in your mouth and then you regret it. And so it's kind of like just hold your horses, calm down. Let's take a minute to like get into a coherent state and then think analytically rather than emotionally and then respond. And so
Yes.
um I think one problem though is that sometimes the other person, right? Like you could be in a coherent state, but the other person's not.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think there becomes like a difficult maybe back and forth because the other person is not ever going to be in a coherent state and their response is always going to be attack, attack, attack,
Mm,
where you're trying to like de-escalate, calm things down, be rational. I think that's kind of the hard part is when the other person will never
yeah.
be in a coherent state. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point. So I think the good news, and we've seen this over and over, is well, the first piece is us owning our own potential, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to stay internal.
Mm-hmm.
And as we have these tools to get in a coherent state, that's the priority because it's so easy to leave our bodies and be reactive to others
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
feel what's going on. But the cool thing, and here's the Jedi session, part of our session is science shows when we're in a coherent state, we can actually start to influence those around us. And there's been thousands of studies on this. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to give a shout out to the Heart Math Institute because
Mm-hmm.
they have done so much important research for 40 years, really around the relationship between the heart and the brain. And there's been studies they've done where they've had, like it was I think it was a technology company in Silicon Valley. It's a group of 40 people, and they broke up the group into 10 groups of four. In each group of four, three of the four were instructed to get into a coherent state through the
Mm-hmm.
techniques we do.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth had no idea what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were instructed, a high percentage of the time, the fourth person who had no idea what was going on
Mm-hmm.
got into a coherent state. And it was measured by these
Amazing.
biometric wellness
Mm-hmm.
devices,
Like heart rate. Mm.
heart rate, HRV, like a number of different things. HeartMath has great technology that takes certain data and then gives you a coherence score. And that's what they were using. But I mean, we have seen it with SWAT teams
Yeah.
where before they might have gone in, like this anger. Now, when they get into a coherent state, they literally tell us they're changing the outcomes of the situation. So
That's
when they go in
amazing.
a coherent state, the person who's angry or whatever's happening because remember, 95% of our thoughts are being run by the subconscious. The person, we're always reading each other's nervous systems.
Yeah.
SWAT team goes in, they're calm, coherent, present. It changes literally the people that are being disruptive. And
Yeah.
something that is really powerful is when we've worked with autistic communities and
Yeah.
trained the parents, and I think I've shared this before,
Yeah.
when the parents get into a coherent state, they've told us their children are being affectionate and speaking for the first time in their lives. So,
Amazing.
so I say this because, especially with your community, you who are leaders in so many different areas, right, of their lives, the ability to be coherent with family, with your team, with your patients, literally changes the environment.
And I think that that's so, I love that it's backed by science and that there's research and there's studies on it because being dentists, we are very scientific, right? And I think that it's so nice to have that all documented. And when a leader can enter that coherent state, it really rubs off on the people around you. And so
Yeah,
I hope that people who are listening they're probably thinking, well, how do I do that? Like, how do I achieve a coherent state? When you're for
yeah,
whatever reason, you're at a heightened state of emotion due to stress, whatever the stress trigger is, it could be physical, emotional, whatever. Um, how does one then, from that heightened sense of stress, go into a coherent state? I'm assuming one part of it is deep breathing. I don't know
yeah.
what's
You want to
what's
try it
after
real
that.
quick?
Yeah, like what
Want
yes.
you- I'll walk
Like,
us through, and then we'll do a real experience. We'll just do it for a
okay.
few minutes. So the first part is there's a few ways to really get into coherence because we can meditate, we can do yoga, but we can still be in a stress response, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
with the research at Heart Math, the first piece is when we put our attention in the area of the heart,
Okay.
it changes the rhythms of the heart, and that sends a
Mhm.
different neural signal to the brain, which
Okay.
then allows for us to optimize.
Okay.
And then another really, really, really powerful way to get into this coherent state is by experiencing a renewing emotion. So more
Okay.
than just thinking about it, but
Mm-hmm.
feeling it. So
Mm-hmm.
when we do that, we have 1,400 chemicals that shift in our body, and we
Mm-hmm.
can go from producing a lot of adrenaline and a lot of cortisol to producing these hormones like DHEA, which is
Yes.
referred to as the vitality hormone that
Mm-hmm.
literally like can heal and regenerate our bodies. And
Mm-hmm.
we are the world's best alchemist, and we can do this within minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so we literally will have people just start taking smooth, easy inhales, exhales, and even noticing their heartbeat. And then we have them place their attention in the area of the heart and feel however it means to them, like they're breathing in and out of their heart. And then from there, we have them connect with a renewing emotion. And even within a couple minutes, it's quite powerful. So we could try it now, or I can attach a recording to whatever we send out.
Absolutely. I think we'll have to attach, we'll do the attaching because I think a renewing emotion might be like when you're holding your baby for the first
Oh,
time, or
yes.
like you're cuddling with your children or your dog or your pet, like I think of those thoughts that for me would be renewing.
Oh, I mean, those are as powerful. Those are very powerful. We joke, but we're serious. Like sometimes family, friends aren't always renewing. We love them. We don't always like them. So the pets are the go-to. I always think of like, you know, we had a golden doodle for 14 years named Mia, and I still can think about her and
Mm,
feel the love, and it generates the chemicals for me.
love. Yes. Amazing. Yes. And that's like the heart mind connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Now,
the heart, if we had more time, like the heart always has been this symbol of love, and but now science is showing like our heart literally has like neurons in it that
hmm
process, remember,
hmm
and it is wild the information coming out of how powerful the heart is.
it's so amazing. Like so amazing. And now I know I have to like keep asking you questions for the podcast episode. Because so we will do an exercise and we'll attach that some. So if you're interested, just reach out to me. But the next is consistency, right?
Yes.
Because you're busy running around, and some people thinking here like, oh my God, I can't do this like all day, every day.
Yeah.
What are a few simple, realistic ways that our listeners can integrate this into their daily routines? Because then it's like a habit. Like they just it's like a it becomes like a knee-jerk
Yeah.
response. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good question. So I would say even if you took 10 minutes a day, and when you do whatever the 10 minutes are, it changes your relationship and experience with everything else that day.
Mm-hmm.
The first piece is to just set your morning intentions, right? Like of how you want to feel and how you want to think. Because we talked about the brain's a record of the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
90% of our thoughts, same as the day before. So it's really important to set a vision for the future
Mm-hmm.
to then, create that awareness.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is to do this, the what we call the heart mass technique, the quick coherence in the morning, resets
Mm-hmm.
the nervous system, right? Creates new baselines. It's really important just to take pauses throughout the day, even if it's the heart
Mm-hmm.
focused breathing before seeing a client, before going
Mm-hmm.
home and, having your kids and husband asking all these
Absolutely.
things, really getting comfortable with connecting with positive renewing emotions. We are
Mm-hmm.
so good at connecting with negative emotions and beating ourselves up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the more we can actually be intentional. It could be going for a walk. It could be having a picture of our child. It could be anything. Keep creating these renewing emotions, and you can do it throughout the day as much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then doing quick coherence at night. We see people that haven't slept in years now sleeping. And I would also say do a bedtime review. Just do a quick check of like, okay, here are my choice points. Here's where I made
Mm-hmm.
decisions that serve me. And
Right.
here's maybe where I could make different decisions tomorrow. Because
Yes.
again, the more self-awareness that we have, it creates more awareness for us to make different decisions the next day.
Absolutely. I love that. I want to end up on with this question of if there's one thing you want our community to remember in a stressful moment, like whether it's a tough patient, team issue, something challenging, to end on this note, what would it be?
Okay. It's kind of two things. So it would be the good news is stress does not live in our external circumstance. It lives in our body.
Mm,
And the reason this is good news, we can't always change the external circumstance, right? The
right,
patient that's late,
right,
your kid's sick at school and you have four patients, all
mm,
these things. But you can always change your physiology,
right,
right? Through getting into this more coherent state. And
right.
I would say the second thing is be curious about how you can influence your environment. So start to witness when you're in this coherent state, how somebody that might be stressed in the chair, you might shift them within
Mm,
a minute or two.
100%.
And here's the bigger picture as you as leaders, if you can actually teach them this, right, and teach them the heart coherence and connect with a renewing emotion, and them going to a dentist, which might be a stressful experience, and they feel themselves shift within a few minutes, then you're providing them a tool they can use everywhere else in their life. And you're having this like
Absolutely.
beautiful positive domino effect.
Well, I want to add to this for like real life example as a pediatric dentist. When I had toddlers, especially like 2, 3, 4, 5 year old, like coming into the dentist and it's their first time, they're anxious, they're scared because in their mind they're thinking I'm getting a shot like my pediatrician's office, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't come near it, right? And I always taught all my students when you have a highly anxious child with a parent in the room, you aren't going to touch the child right off the bat. What you're going to do is you're going to set the tone where you're going to calm the parent down because
Mm,
that child is on the lap of the parent and feeds off the energy, the
yes.
heartbeat, the pulse. That child is so connected to their mother or father that your primary job is to calm that parent down. Once the
Yes.
parent calms down, it's a miracle how calm the child is. So if you can do this heart math coherence exercise with that parent first,
Yes.
the whole appointment, or at least this kickoff of the appointment with that child, will be easier.
Oh, that is such deep wisdom. It's so important. My martial arts, my Qigong teachers always talk about a parent having all this worry for a child does not help, right?
Right,
Because there's such connection. And the
right.
more you can be engaged, but the less attachment, you're actually serving your children.
Absolutely. So
Wow. Love that.
please, take away that lesson for all of you dentists who are seeing children in your practice. I know you want to get the appointment done. I want you want to get to the next patient, but if there's a really, really, really anxious, person, you have
Mhm.
to calm their anxiety before you touch them. It's just not going to be smooth. So,
Yeah.
on that note,
Love it.
what is your number one piece of advice on what you do to find balance in your professional personal life?
Another great question. I think we have to be intentional about prioritizing ourselves. And if we're not in a coherent state, if we're not happy, we're not serving anybody. So when we're selfish around our own time, everybody else benefits.
Yeah.
And it really includes like planning out your week, whatever it is, and doing things that are joyful. But like I used to be just work, 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 thinking and honestly, I'm so much more productive now when I take breaks and do things in more of a state of joy. And also, like, joy is really my intention because, I joke, but it's true. It's like I can work 12 hours a day under stress or enjoy. It's my choice. But when I'm in joy, I am more creative. I connect more. I have more energy. So, through these techniques, through the choice point, through the intentions, we really see our clients go from more of a victim state at times to really understand they're the creators of their own world moment by moment, even if craziness is going on around them.
You have nailed it. So, I mean, like, we could go for another hour, and we're running out of time, but I want our listeners to know that, Paragon Performance can be reached. You can reach out to Jeff. And what is the best way to do that?
I think you could send me an email. It's Jeff at performanceparagon.com. And, Grace, as you know, I would love to invite a couple things. We do complimentary community coherence calls 4 times a week, and we have clients from all around the world, and they're 15, 20 minutes. Um, our clients can join. It's a quick technique and some sharing. So every time you do that, you're shifting your nervous system and
Yeah.
baseline.
Yeah.
Two
Well,
is
oh, sorry. I just want to say, sorry to interrupt, but I just
no,
want to
no.
say that some of our members have already joined. So,
Yes,
yeah,
which is incredible.
yeah.
And second is we do these complimentary workshops. So this month we've done the science of visualization. We've had a bunch of your amazing community members join. Next month it's about 10x, really how to, have a different framework of achieving your goals. So your members are invited to all of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
for my Be the Queen masterminds, this is what we've been rolling out with Jeff, and it's been tremendous feedback, and we're just excited to join you and go do a deeper dive and have these tools to become better leaders, and not just better leaders, but it's your persona. Like it's you walk into the room with this, your energy comes in before you do type of scenario.
Yeah.
And it's not just as a leader, it's as is how you show up.
Yeah.
And I think that for me is the bigger picture of is how I'm showing up in front of everybody, in front of my team, in front of my family, in front of my friends, and how I carry that energy. And that's the way I look at it, and not compartmentalizing like, oh, I'm a business owner, so I'm going to be like this over here. Like, I'm like,
Yes.
it has to be you. Like, it has to be you and authentically you in front of the whole world.
Very much. I love that. We always say our internal state creates our external reality. And you're right. It's these are different roles and masks, but it's just how we're existing internally creates everything.
Love it. Well, thank you for guiding us and walking us through that. Again, listeners, if you want to reach out, feel free to reach out and you can reach me or Jeff and leave us a 5-star review if you love us. Heart. All right, take care, everyone. See you next time.